If you're nodding right now, you're like, yeah, I have lots of cash in there. I don't know what to do with it. This is an episode that we're going to attack why this is so important to fix from getting, that's the left side. How do we get to the right side? Okay, Stallion, I want to set this up well. You are leading our students through kind of how to think through money, and you're giving them this architecture. And we talked about the left side was the rat race, right? The right side was the wealth interface. And for those people that, understand the brain, they realize that the right side of the brain, it tends to be the more imaginative side. It's the one that, the creatives use to come up with things. And I think it's the thinker's way, right? The left side of the brain is more rational, daily critical thinking that we're doing on a normal basis. And I think it pairs up very well with this passive income architecture.
That's right. Yeah. And if you're not familiar with the passive income operating system, you need to go ahead and get access to that. Go to wealth.wallstreet.com/PIOS. That is the ebook that breaks this entire thing down, that you actually, when you work with our company, you actually work with a coach who helps you implement this exact thing. But just to kind of quickly, if you're listening to this and not seeing it, I'll just explain, first of all, on the left side of this, your active income is coming into an account. And most cases, people have everything coming out of that very same account. And in our architecture, we're like, wait a minute. You can't do that. You have to have a separate place where the income comes in and a separate account where all your expenses come from.
I want to add a little bit to what you just said. You can do it. It's just not the most efficient.
Well, why is it not?
We've seen it over and over and over again where people are limited by the amount of stuff going on in their life, right? We're always busy. We're running a business. We have kids, they have activities, we have travel. It's hard enough to get through our week, much less try to think about our money. And when you have all of these things coming in and out of one account, your brain is a little bit overwhelmed by what hasn't come out. And so we typically leave lots of cash in there. If you're nodding right now, you're like, yeah, I have lots of cash in there. I don't know what to do with it. This is an episode that we're going to attack why this is so important to fix from getting, that's the left side. How do we get to the right side?
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before, go to wealth.wallstreet.com/PIOS.
And why do we call it the rat race, Russ? Explain for somebody that says, okay, I see you call it the rat race. I don't understand why.
Well, think about this. Robert Kiyosaki coined that phrase, as far as I know, the rat race, at least that's what I would give credit to, is that we go to work and we make money, we come home, we eat dinner, we go to sleep, we wake up, and we repeat the process over and over and over. So it's like the rat chasing the cheese constantly on this wheel, never really feeling like they're ever getting ahead. And if you feel that way, if you're like, hey, I'm not financially free, I don't have passive income exceeds my monthly expenses, I want that, but I'm not certain how to do it most efficiently, it's because most of the things we do is in the left side. It's where we go make money. It's where we spend money, right? Maybe it's where we don't truly do a good job of saving it. Up to this point, we've probably used qualified plans like 401ks and IRAs. We've tried to do the Wall Street model, putting money in mutual funds. But no matter what the return or the balance says on the statement, we don't feel any richer. So we constantly feel like we're chasing the cheese.
Well, and to use one of our students or our participants' words, they said it feels like pressure. It feels like anxiety, because as you're in the rat race and you're stuck on this left side of what we're talking about, that you're not getting further ahead. You're just maintaining at best. If you're one of the ones that has a little bit left over at the end of the month and it's sitting there in that account and you're just like, well, I don't know what to do with it. You're not drowning, but are you getting to your actual goal? And the answer is no, right? It feels like, wait a minute, when does this ever change? And the answer is nothing changes if nothing changes. So the system that we work with has to change. And so I'm using their words here, Russ, because I feel like this is so eye-opening to me. Like I would have said that, but to have other people look at the same framework and say, that's how it feels to me. Like that was so impactful.
Well, the left side of the equation where all our money is actively made and where our money is actively spent, they said it feels like it's just dissipating, right?
Exactly.
Like I feel the money evaporating on that side as compared to when they analyze the right side, when they are moving money strategically every single month out of the left side to the right side, right? So let me kind of give you an example where you don't fall behind us here. But let's pretend you're making $25,000 a month and you're spending $15,000 of that. Well, most people would just leave that $10,000 on the left side because they'd say, well, I know I have a vacation coming up. I know that there's going to be some property taxes on the investment property we have. I'm just going to keep it there. And then eventually I'll find an investment, right? And eventually becomes the next year and then the next year and then the next year. And what happens? Either we do nothing or that money gets spent. Well, the person who says, no, I've got to build a system that creates financial freedom. I need that. I don't want to have anxiety anymore. I want to be moving toward, I want to be active. So they move money out of that checking account. So the extra $10,000 they have a month, they move it systematically to the right side into their infinite banking system. Now, you've heard us talk about the infinite banking process and how Joey and I have built over $50,000 a month doing this exact process where we get our cash in our hands. Joey, what's the number one obstacle to financial freedom?
Yeah, lack of access to cash.
So when you get your money into a place that you can actually touch it, the infinite banking concept does that and delivers that, then now you get to start making decisions.
By the way, I'm going to cut you off for just a second because one of the things before we get to that right side, you gave a great example. Hey, you make 25 grand, you pay 15 grand, you got 10,000 left over. But here's the reality. As you're listening to this, you may be like, well, I may make similar numbers to that, but I don't really have that 10,000 left over. And one of the things that you don't recognize is one of the biggest hurdles to getting to that right side is when the money dissipates before it even gets into your checking account through qualified plans. 401ks and IRAs are typically pulled out before you even see them. And all they're doing is reducing the amount of money that you have left to put to the right side. And guess what? They've got chains around them because those dollars are not accessible until you're almost 60 years old. That's something that, again, is not on the framework. You don't even see it happening, but it is absolutely hamstringing you from getting to that right side.
And one of the reasons why we stay on the left side is based on just using the words of the participant in our accelerator group is that's how we grew up.
Exactly.
Right? That's just what we were taught. I just go to work. I make money.
Default. It's a default.
I spend money, right? Like that's just natural to think that way. I mean, so if you're doing that, that's not wrong. That's what you've learned. And so to move to the right side of the equation, right, to turn on the creativity of our brain, which is so important. Every time you can get money to the right side of the equation, we call this the wealth interface. Every time we can get that, in my example of having $10,000 left over every month and pushing it over to the right side, it's creating the moment where you say, okay, now what do I do?
Which does what, Russ? That literally, just that one movement retrains your brain. Like one of the participants in this accelerator said that very thing. This literally retrains my brain.
Well, Joey, you go to this thing every single month, I think, that is truly retraining your brainwaves, right? It's taking the pathways in your brain and rerouting them to clear them up that gives you lots of other health benefits, right? You see this personally in your life. These neural pathways in our brain get so rutted, so grooved that we have a hard time of doing new things because of that habit. So for us, we have to break that one habit and create a new one. Like get rid of the bad habit of keeping the money on the left side, just assuming we're going to postpone all the things that we hope to have to some future date, instead of saying, I'm going to create a new pathway. I'm going to create a new habit, a good habit, where I get money on the right side and I start to decide, what am I going to do with it? Oh, now I can invest in myself. Now I can start investing in my future. Now I can start learning how to become a better investor. Now I know which dollars I should use to pay off debts. Remember, the right side is about paying off debts, not paying down debts. Left side is paying down debts. Left side is constantly just giving money away, not thinking about it, not getting necessarily any closer to financial freedom. The right side is about, how do I get money there? How can I creatively think, which assets should I be buying? How much passive income will they produce?
There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, pop quiz day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared, though, for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
Tribe, if you're still searching for what is going to be that passive income source that's going to push you over the hump, it's going to help you become financially free, head over to the Art of Passive Income podcast, where our friend Mark Podolsky breaks down his amazing land flipping method.
You've heard us talk about how this one strategy has created over $30,000 a month in passive income for Russ and I. Do yourself a favor, wherever you listen to podcasts, go hit the subscribe button to the Art of Passive Income podcast today.
I'm going to point this out too. Like if we talked about Robert Kiyosaki, giving him credit for the term rat race, but he also gives us the framework we've shared on the podcast before, the cash flow quadrants, right? You remember those? We break it down, the employee and the self-employed, the ESBI, right? If you think about ESBI, employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. Well, he breaks them down into left side and right side. I mean, again, we're kind of stumbling across this as we built this framework, but it's been there the whole time. The employee and self-employed work for money. But on the right side, the business owner investor, either other people or the money works for money. And that was something that one of the participants pointed out. This looks like something that Kiyosaki came up with the quadrants. And it looks like I'm at work on the left side, and on the right side, my money's at work. The income is making money, right? The money makes money. These are all their words. And I was like blown away that it is so clear. The other thing that wasn't said that I want to point out, Russ, and it goes along with your fact of saying that, hey, you can become a better investor. When you have separated the left side from the right side, when you're on that right side, you are now in a position of decision making. And up until then, on the left side, there's no decision to make. It's just, hey, I make money. There's a debt or a payment that's due. It's paid. There's no decision. It's just pay the thing. On the right side, now I've got money. I've got something that it's actually, in one of our old podcast guests said this, it was asking me what to do with it, right? The policy, the infinite banking system, the money's sitting there saying, what can I go do with this? And so anyways, I want to point those things out. Those are discrepancies and differences as the left and the right side are broken down.
Well, the most common question we have is, what should I invest in? When should I buy an asset versus pay off a debt? What is the best way to become financially free? Like, these are constant questions, and you're probably having them. And the framework is so important. Get money on the right side. People will say, hey, should I use my home equity line of credit to invest in blank? Well, is it a left side opportunity or is it a right side opportunity? Most people would say it's on the left. Well, if it's on the left, it's going to stay on the left. If you get it to the right, then now you're going to start creatively thinking, what should I do? Well, should you do something before knowing what to invest in, who your investor DNA is, having an investor buy box, being a good and due diligence person, seeing enough opportunities? The right side creates the thinking. I must be creative. If I do things on the left side mindlessly, will I have lots of success? Well, you just measure it against where you are today. Maybe you've been fantastic in creating income. Do you feel income rich but cash poor? Right? Do you feel any closer to financial freedom? That's what the left side is all about. But the reality is that we are taking time to truly differentiate. make that mental jump to moving money from one side to the next so that you can start figuring out what assets to buy so that you can know when to pay off debts and when not.
That's right. This is another picture, if you want to, kind of zoom out even bigger, is becoming the person that you need to be. And I'm just going to give you this as my final thought on this, Russ, and you can kind of take it home. But before I understood what we're teaching now, I'm just going back to the days I was in the mortgage business. I was hard at work, had that head down. I was just, you know me, I was working 60, 70 hours a week some weeks. And some weekends getting ready for the audit that was going to happen. And do you know what? I never had the right side of my brain turned on because I had shut that creativity off. I was blindly putting money in places because I didn't take any ownership of that wealth building, that passive income creating side of what we're talking about. But now, as I've put that money over there to that right side, I become the investor that I should have been from beginning. I've forced myself to get out of that left side and into the right side. And I think as you're listening to this may be literally the thing that clicks. It says, no wonder things are not different. No wonder I feel stuck in my 9-to-5 and things are not getting any better, even though my income is going up. And that was my thought too. So I don't know, Russ, that was just, as I was thinking about this, seeing this, I was just reminded of where I was.
I think so many times we only are exposed to so much information, so it's so hard for us to know what we don't know, right? Like that's an obvious statement, but it's finding a community, finding a coach, finding a mentor that can show you where the opportunities are, right? Can unveil where the hidden areas in your life are that you haven't even considered. There's so many cash flow killers that keep people stuck on the left side. They're like, man, I don't have that extra 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever it is to move over to the right side because they never have somebody who understood what money cash flow should look like and how to help them correct it, how to help them build their own personal profit and loss statement. Like that's a simple thing as business owners we should have in our life, but we don't. Our coaches do that for you. Like this is one of those things. People say, well, I don't know, like how do I use the infinite banking concept to the fullest? I have this insurance policy, but to be honest, I've never really used it. I don't even know if it's the right thing. Can I even talk to somebody about that? And the answer is yes. That's the reason we built a process so that everyone can move from active income, left side, to creating passive income, right side, to ultimately becoming financially free. So you go to work not because you have to, but because you want to. If this is for you, you need to jump on a call right now. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/free call and help yourself unlock this opportunity that exists right before you. I hope this was helpful to you. Go to YouTube if you want to see the visual, because I think the visual of this architecture, this is exactly what we set up. Surely there's a lot more details on how we automate it and all the things, but this is a visual for you. How can you get your system to start working automated every single month for you so that you can get closer to financial freedom faster? Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.